In Game 1 Tuesday, Rob Bell picked up his first Rays win, supported by 19 hits and a 9-3 victory. Yesterday, Dave McCarty's 2 doubles and sacrifice fly led the A's to a 6-3 win, setting up today's matchup as the Rays look for a series win. Rays and the A's next. This afternoon, we have a beautiful day in the Bay Area as we greet you from Oakland, California. This is Game 3 of a 3-game series between the Tampa Bay Devil Rays and the Oakland Athletics. Hi again, everybody. Welcome to an afternoon of Rays baseball. Dewayne, Staats, Joe Magrane with you. Great day for baseball as the Devil Rays and the A's have divided the first 2 games of the series. The Rays have not won a series from the Oakland A's since July of 1998. They'll try to do it here this afternoon. Joe, they're going to send the right-hander Jorge Sosa to the mound. He's coming off 2 good starts. Rays starting to see some consistency out of this young right-hander.
Well, he's drawn 2 tough matchups his last 2 times out, Russ Ortiz and Esteban Loaiza. And he's had pretty good numbers in those last 2 starts, and he's going to be facing Mark Mulder, obviously is a tough customer as well. Jorge Sosa, to be successful, has to avoid those deep counts, has to stay out of those fastball counts to where he's throwing fastball after fastball after fastball. In these previous 2 starts, he has shown a very good slider, and if he can get into counts to where he can use that pitch, I think he'll be effective against a formidable lineup.
Sosa coming off a win over the Chicago White Sox, and for the Devil Ray hitters, again, they will have their hands full today with another classy left-hander in Mark Mulder, already a 20-game winner in the major leagues. He won 19 games last year, well on his way again this season.
Well, they really put it on Barry Zito in the opening night of this series, staked him to 15 hits, and Mark Mulder has the type of pitches that can really give you fits because all of them are above average. Last year, Barry Zito won the Cy Young for the A's. This year, I think the Cy Young is going to come from Oakland, and I think Mark Mulder is going to be the winner of it. 11 wins so far on the season, and with his type of stuff going up against a lineup that is very free swinging, the Rays are going to have to look to hit early in the count.
So a right-hander and a left-hander go at it this afternoon in Oakland before the road trip continues on to Seattle. The Oakland A's and the Tampa Bay Devil Rays coming up, back with the first pitch in just a moment. Rays baseball on Fox Sports Net, brought to you in part by your local Toyota dealers. Check out the big one at your Toyota dealer now. By Gatorade Thirst Quencher. Gatorade, is it in you? By Pennzoil, we're driving protection. And by Aflac, ask about it at work. Rays against the Oakland A's this afternoon. Oakland coming in 50-39 on the year. The Rays 31-57. And the Toyota starting lineup for the Rays this afternoon. Leading off at short, Julio Lugo. Antonio Perez in the lineup again for the Rays at second base. He'll be followed by Rocco Baldelli. Aubrey Huff, the DH. Toby Hall behind the plate. Hitting 6th at first is Travis Lee. Damien Rolls down at third base with Terry Shumpert getting a start in right field. And in left field, hitting 9th against the lefty, is Carl Crawford.
Mark Mulder on the hill this afternoon for the A's. Cy Young stuff. Mulder has 4 quality pitches. Top flight pitcher. Here's that scouting report. I think this year is the Cy Young year for Mark Mulder if he does what he did here in the first half. In the second half, should be a slam dunk. Great locator of all of those pitches. Let's take a look at the Oakland A's defensively. Starting over at first base is Scott Hatteberg. Mark Ellis, the second baseman. Miguel Tejadas at short. Eric Chavez at third base. Billy McMillan out in left field. Chris Singleton in center. Terrence Long in right. Ramon Hernandez is behind the plate.
And the numbers on Mark Mulder. 11 wins already, 11-6. He's 5th in the league. in earned run average at 310. More complete games than any other pitcher in the big leagues with 6. This his 19th start. And the first pitch of the ball game is a strike call by Tim Welke. Lugo shortening on the bat. So this game is underway. 1 strike the count on Lugo. 65 degrees here under clear skies. Absolutely gorgeous. Nothing in 2. Not only is Mulder 5th in the American League in ERA with a 3.10, but he is even better here in this ballpark. A home earned run average of under 2 at 1.90.
Lots of day baseball here in Oakland, and with the 4 quality pitches that he has, you have to be able to recognize spin early. Very bright here and tough to pick up spin.
2 balls, 2 strikes. Lugo starting the day at 243. And is out on strikes to start this game. 1 away.
I think you can say every single one of his pitches are strikeout pitches. Got the changeup. He has the slider, curveball, fastball. Must be nice.
And he can sink that fastball with the best of them as well. So there's a lot of dimension to this guy and his approach to pitching. Antonio Perez takes the first one inside. A ball, no strikes the count. Perez lifts a fly ball into center. Singleton back a few steps forward out there and puts it away. 2 gone.
Dewayne, it seems like every time that we see day baseball out here in Oakland, there always seems to be a pop-up or 2 that the infielders, outfielders have a hard time finding. Not a cloud in the sky, but it's tough to see.
Yeah, it's that high sky here. Not much in terms of depth. Baldelli takes one outside, a ball and no strikes. And it always seems so much brighter out here on those days. 1-1 the count. Rocco 309, a little over 350 against left-handed pitching, and sends a fly ball back into left field. McMillan will go back to the track, and this one's going to carry out of here. Home run for Rocco Baldelli on a 1-1 pitch. That's number 6 for Rocco, and the Rays break out in front. Not altogether uncommon to see that kind of carry when Baldelli hits the ball.
Because he has tremendous bat speed. He can really get it through the zone. The side stroke, look at that bat, is almost torqued out coming into the hitting zone. This kid is going to be a big-time power hitter.
Here's Aubrey Huff, and he takes a look at the first pitch for a strike. So the home run for Baldelli, and the Rays are on the board. 0-2 the count on Huff. Chop to the right side. Canterbury with the flip to Mulder cover. Rays with a run on the Baldelli home run. Bottom of the first coming up. Rocco Baldelli connecting in the top of the first, his 6th home run of the year to give the Rays an early lead. The Toyota starting lineup for Oakland. Terrence Long leading off, followed by Hatterberg, Tejada. There's the rest of it as we take a look at the first pitch. Terrence Long looks at a strike on the outside corner. Jorge Sosa on the hill. Long hitting .254. This one is down, a ball and a strike. Long not the prototypical leadoff man. He doesn't walk a lot. There's a little pop in that bat. And there's a base hit into right center field. Shumpert in to make the pickup. And the leadoff man is aboard.
Let's quickly set the defense for the Devil Rays this afternoon behind Jorge Sosa. Over at first base, Travis Lee. Antonio Perez at second. Julio Lugo at short. D. Rolls at third. Carl Crawford in left. Rocco in center. Terry Shumpert in right. Toby's behind the plate.
The A's right back with the leadoff man on base with Terrence Long aboard. Here's Scott Hatteberg. And the pitch to him is in there for a strike. Hatteberg has been one of these hitters, and not altogether unlike last year. He's hitting .261 overall. With nobody on base, he struggles to hit 200, but you put men on base and certainly men in scoring position. He's hitting over 400 with men in scoring position this year.
He works the count, walks a lot, and when you have a hitter that works the count, especially with runners on, you have to believe that they're getting good pitches to hit.
A 1-1 count. Here's Hatteberg coming over from Boston last year. And a shot up the right side. That's just fair. Back into the corner. Shumpert will have to go get it. They're going to wave Long around. There will be no throw on the double by Hatteberg, and this game is tied 1-1. Well, no sooner said than done. Hatteberg comes through for Oakland, driving in the run.
Maybe Scott Hatteberg thinks that when a guy is on first, he's in scoring position. This ball firmly hit right on the line. You never want to really begin your starts by working from the stretch exclusively in the first inning.
Well, 3 pitches into this one, Sosa had to do exactly that. Gave up the base hit to Long. Now the double by Hatteberg, and here's Miguel Tejada. So the game is tied. Tejada with 15 homers on the year. A ball to no strikes. Last outing for Jorge Sosa against the White Sox. He pitched 5 1/3 scoreless innings in that one. One ball, one strike. Lou Piniella, his club, dividing the first 2 games of this series. Two and one now.
Boy, that's the pitch you really like to see Jorge Sosa get incorporated into this start, is that slider. For a couple reasons. If he's throwing it successfully, that means he's getting ahead with the fastball. And also he's getting these Oakland A's to expand the count. Expand the strike zone, rather.
The count goes to 2-2 here. Well, you know, the challenge for these young pitchers for the Devil Rays, we mentioned in our opening comments, Jorge Sosa still in the development stage, and you know, in a perfect scenario, you'd have him in the minor leagues where he could throw a certain percentage of sliders in an outing, maybe that changeup as well to go with the fastball. You work on developing consistency with that pitch. But he's thrown into a major league situation here where you're trying to win, trying to compete. And when those pitches aren't at his beck and call, when he's not as consistent with those pitches, it becomes a challenge for him. The whole mindset becomes thrown off.
Well, you find yourself kind of in survival mode out there as opposed to just on the attack.
3-2. Ground ball back to the middle and a base hit into center field. Hatteberg on his way to the plate. He will score on the base hit into center by Tejada, and Oakland takes a 2-1 lead. So that 1-run lead on the home run by Baldelli didn't last long.
Well, let's take a look at the scouting report for Jorge Sosa. We've talked a lot about that good arm strength, and very important against this lineup that works the count. to work ahead. And he needs to use that slider more, and he'll be able to do that if he works ahead.
So Tejada's at first. Here's Rubio Durazo. Takes one outside, a ball to no strikes. Durazo, the designated hitter. Young man out of Mexico. He grew up working on his dad's ranch in Mexico. He's a strong guy. With a good eye up there. Good on-base percentage, good slugging percentage. 1-1 the count.
Did you see that great movie called All the Pretty Horses about working in a Mexican ranch? And
You've got to be tough.
Yeah. All breaking those horses.
At 401 on base percentage, among the top 10 in the American League. 2 balls and a strike.
See, these are the counts that Jorge has to stay out of. The 2-0s, the 2-1s, the 3-1s. These are counts that he frequently works under in his starts.
There's a strike. 2-2.
There you go.
Long and Hanneberg have scored. Tejada's at first, nobody out. Durazo with a 2-2 count on him. And a liner into right center field for a base hit. Shumpert bobbles it out then. Now Durazo's going to dig for second, and he's going to make it. Tejada was on his way to third, and when Durazo saw the bobble out there in right center field, he decided to move into second. That'll be a base hit and an error charge to Shumpert.
Still nobody out. Chris Bosio is going to have to try to figure out an adjustment for Jorge Sosa. You know, you never want to work out of the stretch in the first inning because you want to get that delivery ironed out to where your release point's consistent, and the best way to do that is developing rhythm out of the windup. But what has Lou Piniella concerned is every single one of these balls that have been hit have been very well centered.
Well, the A's have come out on the attack against Jorge Sosa. Don't forget Tuesday, the 22nd of July, against the Anaheim Angels at 12:15 is a St. Anthony's Seniors Day. All seniors receive a lower deck outfield ticket, a hot dog, Pepsi, and snack for just $9.99 on Seniors Day, Tuesday, July 22nd at 12:15. Men at second and third. Here's Harry Chavez. His average 253 with good power, as you know, and the pitch is in there for a strike. So the A's on the verge of a very big first inning after the Rays grabbed a quick lead on the Baldelli home run. Tejada at third, Durazo at second. And a shot back into right. Shumpert reaches up to make the catch. Tag at third by Tejada. He's going to score. And over to third goes Durazo. It's now 3-0. Chavez driving in his 49th run of the year.
Dewayne, that ball was stung too.
All of them have been hit hard here, starting with Long's single. Hanneberg smoked it up the right field line. Tejada's single into center, and then Durazo hit the ball hard, as did Chavez. Finally, the first out, and here's Ramon Hernandez. Hernandez hitting .267. Ground ball back by the mound and throw into center field. found its way through in between Lugo and Perez. Another run is in as Durazo crossed the plate. Now it's 4-1.
Durazo wasn't going anywhere. He was going to give the out there in that situation. He was actually going back to third.
Well, he chopped it by the mound, and neither Lugo nor Perez could come up with it. A base hit. It's 5 hits already in a 4-run first, and here's Billy McMillan. He fouls away that first pitch. Strike one. They're up there swinging.
Jorge's going to have to get some off-speed pitches into play, because even with that foul ball there by McMillan, everything seems to have been well timed with the Oakland A's swings.
A ball and a strike. So Long, Hanneberg, Tejada, and Durazo, the first 4 hitters, have all scored. Play the other way, and the count is 1-2.
We broke it down before in Jorge Sosa's delivery about how he really sinks down on that back leg. Mark Mulder at 6'6" does a great job maintaining that good down angle on the pitching mound. Sosa at 6'3", you'd like to see him take advantage of that height a little more.
2-2.
Let's take a look at that delivery. He's already preset that back leg, and look at him really sink down. I mean, that head drops down. It looks like a foot, and you lose a lot of that angle and leverage as opposed to staying tall and throwing the ball downhill.
And there's ball 3.
And when you do that, Dewayne, it's hard to get your arm out in front, and you'll see a lot of pitches up and away and high like that, as opposed to driving them down.
And they tend to flatten out a little bit more, which means the hitter has a much better perspective with that ball staying close to the same plane all the time. Full count now. There goes the runner, and the pitch is ball 4. So another man reaches. Ramon Hernandez moves up to second. McMillan aboard on the walk. Only 1 out, and that was that hard-hit line drive sacrifice fly by Eric Chavez.
No activity in the bullpen. May start to get something going now, but Lou Piniella knows going up into Seattle that they figure to really want to utilize as many matchups out of the bullpen as possible. But he's got to figure out a way to get innings out of his starter here today.
Here's Chris Singleton. And the pitch is a strike, and you can tell just by looking at Lou there, it really goes against his nature to just absorb this.
Right.
But you're right, he's got to think about a series in Seattle against a very good club up there as well. So what do you do? 0-2. Sosa ahead of Singleton. Chris Bosio and Piniella talking it over.
You're trying to figure out, I mean, who could they get out there to have an extended outing? Carlos Reyes designated for assignment yesterday.
They designated him when Joe Kennedy was activated. Count as a ball and 2 strikes right now.
Rob Bell threw on Friday, figures to go to the bullpen after the break. But he's probably already thrown on the side.
This one is down. Well, Bell worked 6 innings Tuesday. In the back, he worked an inning. Harper also got into that game, worked an inning and a third. RBC as well. And then yesterday they had Levine, Colomé, Carter finished that. Bobby C in that one as well. Now still 2-2 here on Singleton. Singleton, the 8th hitter to come to the plate for the A's in the first. And therein lies the dilemma facing Lou Piniella and Chris Bosio. Well, who are you going to go with here?
Yeah, these are in order of how he wants to use them. Brandon Backey would be the first guy out of the pen. Lance Carter, he'd like to give a little bit more work and get some confidence.
Ground ball, broken bat. Perez up for this one, and the throw to first in time. The runners advance. Hernandez to third, McMillan over to second. 2 gone now. Singleton is out number 2 on a broken bat ground ball.
And you saw that list on the lineup card, so you know Lou Piniella, if it comes to this, would kind of like to use Al Levine in a safe situation. And he talked about broadening that closer's role a little bit, and he's the last on the list, and Harper there to set up. Bobby C, of course, the lone lefty.
Here's Mark Ellis. And the first pitch is a strike, and you have to be careful to this guy. Ellis hitting .251 for the year, but .315 with runners in scoring position. He'll battle you up there. He can be a tough out. And a popper on the right side. Travis Lee there to make the catch to retire the side. At the end of an inning, 4-1 Oakland. The second inning for the Rays. Takes the first pitch in there, a strike call. Paul Lee and rolls against the lefty Mark Mulder. A ball and a strike. A long first inning. Certainly for Jorge Sosa, who made 34 pitches in the first inning. Saw 9 hitters. Toby bounces this one down to third. Chavez with the play. And that's out number 1. Rays with a run on the first. Batting here in the second. Our critics calling the best damn sports show period the hybrid of sports news and sports bar banter. Isn't like anything else you've seen on the air. Johnny Martin, Luke Walker, and Dante Jones. Best damn sports show period at 8 and 10 on Fox Sports Net. 1-0 pitch by Lee. It's a fair ball. Lee claims it was fouled off his foot. And let's see, I think we might get a little examination of the baseball. Tim Welke, the crew chief, wants to see if there's any smudge on that baseball, perhaps from his spikes.
Boy, he's going to bring the other umpires in to talk about it. He looked at the ball and he gave it back to Mark Mulder. No, he still has it. I'm sorry.
Travis Lee indicated that he had fouled it off his foot. And here's another look.
Well, there was Exhibit A that Tim Welke just threw out because he called it a foul ball. He called it a foul ball after checking for shoe polish.
And Maka out there. He liked the call down at first base better. And of course, the idea, as we've said many times, is to get it right, and that's what they've done.
Well, if he uses a black bat, it would be less conclusive because that puts a black mark on the ball as well.
And a strike down around the knees. The count is 1-2. He's facing a very tough left-hander in Mark Mulder. Ground ball, backhanded, knocked down by Hannenberg. Mulder's there and out to call it for foul. That toss a little high, and the Rays are going to argue on this one. Lou Piniella comes out. Billy Hatcher puts up the first argument, and now Lou Piniella will take over.
Well, you know, That toss from Hatterberg, Dewayne, had a lot of hang on it. Going to Mark Mulder. You think all that extra time, Billy Hatcher thought Travis Lee was safe, and he was.
Boy, that's a shame. They got one right call, and this one, what do you think? There's his foot on the bag. He's safe at first.
Yep.
So the Rays lose that call. Damian Rolls takes the pitch too high. Piniella put up an argument, but nothing to do about that one. Chavez up with this one, and the throw to first in time. 1, 2, 3. Bottom half of the second coming. 4-1 Oakland. Bottom of the second, top of the order. Stepping in, Terrence Long leads off for Oakland. The first pitch is a strike. Long, Hatterberg, and Tejada against Jorge Sosa, who struggled through that first. There's a ground ball to second. Antonio Perez makes the play, and that's the first out. Scott Hatterberg will be the next hitter. Sosa touched for 4 runs, 5 hits, and a walk in the first. Hatterberg got into the act with an RBI double his first time up. A ball, no strikes. Rays won the first night in here, a 9-3 ball game. Dropped yesterday 6-3. 1-1 the count. Two balls and a strike. So the Rays on this road trip 1-1 with the 3 to go in Seattle before the All-Star break. Rays home immediately after the break against Alex Rodriguez and the Texas Rangers, and then Anaheim comes in. Sosa behind Hatterberg, 3 balls and a strike.
Well, Jorge threw a lot of pitches in the first, needs a good crisp inning here in the second, hopefully to find himself out there.
Full count right now. 34 pitches in the first. He got a quick out of Long, but has a full count on Hatterberg. Well, he'll have to make another 3-2 pitch.
Well, next time Mark Mulder is out there, maybe we can look at his delivery and kind of compare with Jorge Sosa about how he really sits down on that back leg. Jorge does, and loses a lot of his deception.
Ground ball chopped back over the mound and in the middle through into center. Hatterberg has a base hit. He's 2 for 2. One on with 1 out for Miguel Tejada. Well, the start today for Sosa, the antithesis of what we've seen the last couple times out, when he had put together a little over 11 innings in 2 starts, giving up just 1 run. 4 runs in the first today. And Tejada takes a strike.
You know, you may not get the sensation by standing tall on that back leg that you're using your legs, but you really are creating a lot of leverage. That's why scouts like pitchers to be 6'4", 6'5".
Ground ball shortstop. Lugo to Perez 1 and over to first, not in time for the double play. Tejada reaches on a fielder's choice. 2 gone. He was inspired to play football using his fame and fortune to help others. This Sunday, Fox Sports Net critically acclaimed documentary series continues, Beyond the Glory, and this one will be on Mike Tyson. Beyond the Glory, Mike Tyson, July 16th. You were Discretion is advised. Here's DeRozzo. He fouls this one out of play. 1 strike to count. DeRozzo, the designated hitter.
Well, you mentioned he was a ranch hand on his dad's ranch in Mexico. A pretty strong guy.
Yes, he is.
And you would think, like most cowboys, very strong from the elbows down.
That translates into great strength for a hitter. Hey, balk has been called. That's no pitch. Tejada has been balked up to second base.
Not a lot of things going well for Jorge Sosa. Tim Welke calling it on that little double set.
The pitch is down, and you'll see some pitchers who actually have a double set, but it's a normal routine for them, and if they're consistent with it, that's one thing. But if it's a little different look, then you see the balk called, and that's what happened.
Barry Zito has one of those fanning the glove back and forth where it looks like he's double setting, but he does it every time. 15 hits for the Devil Rays against Barry Zito. He was talking to himself and also Ken Maka, wondering what in the world is wrong.
Two balls and a strike to count to DeRozzo. Down ball right side. Perez from the outfield makes the play. We're at the end of 2. 4-1 Oakland. Rays baseball on Fox Sports Net, brought to you in part by Jack Daniel's Tennessee Whiskey. Nobody makes whiskey like Jack Daniel's. And by Just for Men. More than a hair color, it's the Rejuvenator. Pelican Island out there. Alcatraz. Terry Shumpert pops it up on the first pitch here in the 3rd, and that's going to fall in play, but out of the reach of Hatteberg.
Well, there's a ball that, like we mentioned earlier, that should have been caught. Difficulty with the high sky, all types or all kinds of foul territory.
And you know, Joe, down in that area by the dugout, there's a white line down there. We saw some of the Rays, Lee Elia and some of the coaching staff, a couple of the players down in that area. And there's a white line that determines whether it's in play or out of play. There's a strike. So the count is 1 ball 2 strikes, but in any case, Hatteberg couldn't catch up with that one. With all this foul territory here, it really is a boon to pitchers. Wave and a miss. Shumpert out in front and out on strikes against the lefty.
I mean, it's a long walk, especially after a strikeout, back to the dugout. He's still not there yet.
Carl Crawford. He offers to bunt, missing, strike 1.
Well, nobody likes to strike out, and then when it's followed by a long walk, and then you got to walk in front of your teammates all the way down to the other end of the bench where the bat rack is.
Good incentive not to strike out.
Yep.
1 ball 1 strike. Mulder with a couple strikeouts today. 2 balls and a strike. You know, the Rays have actually hit better this year against left-handed pitching than they have right-handed pitching.
Mark Mulder at 6'6" really does a great job maximizing the down angle. Look how tall he stays over the pitching rubber, and really the hitter just gets a look at the top half of the ball. That's where that leverage and deception really becomes the pitcher's advantage. And Jorge Sosa could take a thing or two from Mark Mulder the way he maximizes that angle.
And ball 4. So a walk drawn by Carl Crawford. And we continue to see glimpses of Crawford be patient up there.
Shortstop.
He's drawn 19 walks now, which doesn't seem like a lot when you think about all the at-bats, but he's had much better at-bats over the last 2 or 3 weeks. And is drawing a few more walks and getting better pitches to hit.
He's a little more opened up, so I think he's just seeing the ball a little bit better than before.
Julio Lugo. 1 strike to count.
You know, Carl is an outstanding athlete. He's very raw, but under the tutelage of Lee Elia, I mean, the hard work of those two, he's got a chance to be really, really good.
The focus is a big part of the next step for Carl Crawford, young player. It's one thing to get to the big leagues on physical talent, and boy, he is gifted with a lot of it. And now it's learning more about the game and the consistency, and that requires focus.
Well, Lee Elia has an eye towards the future with regard to Carl Crawford. I think he already has a pretty clear picture of how good that he could be. Time to time he gets crossed up at the plate, but he's really starting to recognize pitches much better.
There's a wave and a miss. So the count is a ball and 2 strikes to Lugo. Crawford has walked with 1 out. Mulder tied for second in the American League in wins with 11. He's 11 and 6. Among the top 5 in innings pitched, top 5 in ERA. More complete games than anybody else in the big leagues. Runner takes off, and the throw is there in time. Crawford caught for only the 5th time this year.
Quite a throw by Ramon Hernandez, who's going to the All-Star game, riding the strength of that throwing arm. Not a very good jump for Carl Crawford, but a beautiful throw.
Now let's put the tag on him. Now the 2-2 to Lugo. Taps this one foul to stay alive.
Dewayne, you know, anyone can go out there and have a good year or a good half season, but for Mark Mulder, you know, the last 3 years, in 2001 he went 21 and 8, 19 and 7 last year, and he's poised to win 20 again this year.
Strike 3 call. Lugo caught looking. Bottom of the 3rd coming. 4-1 Oakland. Bottom of the 3rd, Eric Chavez leads it off. And the pitch is down. A ball and no strikes. The 3rd baseman for Oakland. His number's off a little bit this year. Coming in hitting .253. Tejada's number's down a bit at .244. 1-1 the count. And the A's at times, Joe, have struggled to score runs this year.
Yeah, hard to believe, you know, given the past few years, all the points they've put up. They've really proven themselves the last couple of years of being a second half ball club. Their general manager, Billy Beans, frequently very active around the trade deadline.
Good ball 3-1, although, you know, it's kind of an interesting trend. If you look at this club as, you know, and you think of this Oakland team winning so many games the last few years and being a pretty good offensive team, but actually struggling to score runs this year, continues a trend of declining runs scored by this club. If you go back to 2000, you know, they averaged over 5.8 runs a game in 2000. They averaged under 5.5 in 01, and last year averaged under 5 runs a game. So that trend has been steadily declining. Hopper foul, tough play right here, and Rose just completely lost it. That's one of those pop fouls against the high sky that we referenced earlier, Joe.
Well, he has the shades on, the sunglasses on. It's so bright now. He's looking up there. He said, there's just no way I'm going to catch this. I can't see a thing.
Apparently Lugo couldn't see it either.
I think it's one of those deals where two guys are going after it, and they're both secretly hoping that they get called off.
Now the 3-2 again, and it's fouled away.
You know, Dewayne, Billy Beane has always been an advocate of working the count and high on base percentage, and he hates the stolen base. But Ken Maka said recently that it's time to start playing more little ball in an effort to score more runs.
He's going to be forced to do that. Back toward the corner and out of play on that foul ball. So another one. And when you look at this club, they've gone through stretches where they haven't walked as much as they would like, although now they're 4th in the league in walks, but that has not been a consistent part of their game. And they're down in the middle of the pack, 7th in home runs. You know, walks and home runs a big part of that philosophy.
Well, you almost get the feeling that if someone gets caught stealing for the Oakland A's, that Ken Maka gets called on the carpet upstairs saying, see, I told you that stolen base is overrated. Got to work the count, and it's about walks and playing for the 3-run home run. But Ken Maka knows as well as anyone that they've had a hard time scoring runs, so he has to do other things. And he came from a team where he coached under Buck Rogers with the Angels and with the Expos, and Buck was a guy who really liked to speed up the game.
There's Ramon Hernandez. Pitch inside. 1 ball, no strikes. Well, you know, that argument, you get into that, the argument, baseball is really a game of accumulating bases, and ultimately, with the ultimate goal, obviously, to score runs. And the stolen base, depending on the makeup of your club, can be an important part of that. Those who might subscribe to the argument put forth by Billy Beane and so forth, they're protecting outs. You know, that's the other thing. It's a game of outs, and you have to preserve those outs. You'll have only 27 for an entire game, and so they're concerned about being thrown out and giving away outs at the expense of accumulating bases. Now, you can misuse any part of the game, including stolen bases. You have to be prudent about when you run and the makeup of your club. But I think if this game teaches any of us anything, is that there's just no hard and fast rules to say, well, we're going to completely discount one or another facet of the game.
Well, you saw in that graphic that the Toronto Blue Jays were on that list as well. Well, J.P. Ricciardi is their GM, and he studied at the feet of Billy Beane here in Oakland. So he's taking that same philosophy over to Toronto. And before Buck Martinez was fired as the Blue Jays manager, Ricciardi issued an edict that he wanted the stop sign put out and no running.
A strike to Ramon Hernandez, and the count is 1-2. The trick is you have to figure out at what point does that hurt your club or help your club in regard to the outs you give away. For an example, if you're stealing bases and only breaking even, well, you're behind, way behind in the game. If you have 15 steals and you've been caught 15 times, there doesn't seem to be much point in it.
Well, you get guys like Bill James, who writes all these statistical books, Baseball Abstract, and really tries to put a scientific approach to a game that in many ways is illogical. I don't think you come up with this standard boilerplate black and white issues about something that's not scientific like baseball. Yes, you can use numbers to interpret things for you.
Down to first, Lee will take it to second for the first out there, and back to first. And the Rays did not turn that potential double play. Hernandez reaches. Chavez retired Lee to Lugo down at second for the first out.
I think those statistical things, you know, can really show you some trends and things as well. Look at this tough 3-6-3 double play, one of the toughest ones to get. But you shouldn't be interpreting those numbers as everything is an absolute.
Well, I think that's where you get into trouble, because this game over a period of the full season, and certainly when you get into the postseason, the variables change, and even the style of baseball that you may play will change. Another try. Lee down to Lugo. One back to first for a 3-6-3 this time. We're through 3. It's 4-1 Oakland. On to the 4th we go from Oakland. Antonio Perez leads it off for the Rays against Mark Mulder. First pitch is in there on the inner part of the plate for a strike. Perez getting the start again at second base. Came in hitting .375 and 8 out of 17 against left-handed pitching. 1-1 to count. Rays have hit .273 against left-handers, .266 overall. They're running 10th in the American League in team batting average and 12th in runs scored. 2-1 to count to Perez.
You know, we were talking about all the statistical analysis and the paper trail and everything that some organizations are really starting to go to, with all kinds of computer printouts. And
looper into short right. Long is there to make the catch, and that's the first out. We have the Aflac trivia question coming up. Time for today's Aflac trivia. Which two players hold the A's rookie record for hits in a season? The Aflac trivia question in play. Here's Rocco Baldelli. Which is down and in, a ball and no strikes. Well, Joe, you know, you're right about establishing hard and fast concrete rules. To me, you can certainly take those and help yourself. You can interpret those, but it seems to me that you'd better have some flexibility with your club, especially as you get into postseason. Fly ball into center field. Singleton is there and makes the catch. 2 gone.
well, I was also, you know, referring to a lot of managers, newer managers now think that the answer is in all kinds of numbers stacked up higher than a Manhattan phone book. I know a guy like Lou Piniella or a manager like Whitey Herzog. These guys have had a great deal of success, and these guys take the bus to the ballpark, and sometimes their only statistical preparation is the stat pack that's available here at press level.
Look at right-left matchup, and they'll figure out if a guy's been swinging the bat well. That's the other thing. By looking at a guy, you can look at matchups, but if a guy's not swinging the bat well, you know, you might not even have him in the lineup that day. Those are the things that the managers you mentioned, just by watching, they're able to pick up things. Ground ball, second base for Ellis, and it's a 1-2-3-4. 4-1 Oakland. Rays baseball on Fox Sports Net, brought to you in part today by Cadillac. Bold vehicles defying convention. Cadillac breakthrough. Beautiful afternoon in Oakland. Umbrellas out against the sun here. Clear skies. Rays with a run in the first, and Oakland with 4 in the first. Here in the fourth, Chris Singleton leads off against Jorge Sosa. A ball, no strikes.
You know, this wouldn't be complete today, Dewayne, without a Bracabella sighting. There has to be at least one. It's that umbrella that Lou Brock came up with.
Are those things still readily available?
I think everything's retro. You have to believe they're coming back with a passion. So personal umbrellas that just fit right on top of the head.
1-1 to count.
We've seen our radio colleague Paul Olden with one.
It's a foul ball. Yeah, but that was more of a fashion statement than it was because of the weather.
A visor, that'll work.
Tap out to second. Perez takes care of this one. Perez to Lee. One away. Aflac trivia question in play. Let's find out the answer to the Aflac trivia question. Aflac asked about it at work. These two players hold the A's rookie record for hits in a season. Ben Grieve and Terrence Long. Grieve in '98 and Long in 2000. Long on deck right now. Mark Ellis takes the pitch too high. 1 ball and no strikes.
Ben's been the subject of several trivia questions out here. Homecoming for him.
1-1 to count. One out. Ellis with a 1-1 count. Sharply hit past the diving rolls and into left. Ellis gathers the 7th Oakland hit of the ball game. You know, this Oakland club, talking about the close games the Rays have played this year, and they've played a ton of them, as you know, 1- and 2-run games. That's another area where Oakland is off a little bit in their effectiveness in those close games. They have a 4-1 lead in this one as Long goes down to third, rolls to second, 1, and over to first for a 5-4-3 double play to retire the side. 4-1 Oakland. 4-1 as we move into the 5th. Toby Hall takes the pitch low and outside. A ball, no strikes. Toby had a couple hits in the game last night, including a home run. Down to third. Chavez up for this one, and they throw to first in time. One away in the 5th. Cadillac standings in the East. The Yankees by 3 on Boston, 8 up on Toronto now. Kansas City a 4.5 game lead on Minnesota. Chicago 6 back, and Seattle leading this Oakland ball club by 6 in the West. Travis Lee one hops this one to Ellis at second, and the throw to first. It's 3 ground balls in a row. That's something Mulder can do. Keep the ball down.
Well, the Rays are going to have to try to put a little something together and make Mulder work. The last few innings, he's had it on cruise control, and he's done it quickly.
Here's Damian Rolls. That pitch is a strike call.
You know, we mentioned it with Barry Zito pitching the opening night of this series. Mulder as well. Left-handed pitchers that pitch on the third base side of the rubber. I think that's a great way to start young left-handed pitchers, because by the time they release the ball, their hand is really in the middle of the plate. A lot of times left-handers start on the first base side and end up throwing across their body in more of a crossfire delivery, harder on the arm and tougher to develop command. On the third base side is a good place to start, and these guys have been dealing basically for the last 2 years.
And a popper, right side, foul ball. Hatterberg after this one makes the catch. Not an easy play against that sky. 4-1 Oakland. Bottom half of the 5th. 4-1 Oakland out in front. Jorge Sosa roughed up for 4 runs when he faced 9 hitters in the first. That after Rocco Baldelli had homered in the Rays first to account for all the scoring so far. Scott Hatterberg leading off. Hatterberg, the first baseman, and the pitch to him is in there for a strike. Hatterberg did a lot of catching with the Boston ball club. First base out here and some DHing as well. 1 ball, 1 strike. Joe, he's a guy who felt that getting away from catching really freed him up to concentrate a lot more on the offensive side of things, and you could certainly understand how that could happen.
Well, of course, you're using up so much of your mental energy trying to get that guy out on the mound squared away.
Ball 3, 3-1. To me, it's kind of like, you know, they talk about pitchers not being good hitters, and you know, in the National League, of course, they still hit over there, which I think is a great idea. But there's so much concentration and development going into pitching. Back into center, and Baldelli is there to make that leaping grab as he hit the track So Scott Hatteberg is out number 1 on a fine grab by Rocco Baldelli.
You know, when Rocco started this year, he wasn't quite as instinctive in center field as the reports indicated, but day after day the guy continues to get better and really starting to look like a natural out there, running great routes. Of course, he can jump out of the building.
Here's Tejada. The pitch to him is in there for a strike.
You know, and Rocco admitted that when he first came up, he wasn't used to guys continually in the lineup hitting the ball over his head.
Down to third, rolls, makes this play. 2 outs here in the 5th inning with the bases empty. Let's check the Corona Extra miles away from ordinary factoid of the game. All-Star game 69 years ago today. Carl Hubble striking out Double X, Jimmy Fox, Babe Ruth, Al Simmons, and Joe Cronin in succession. That are Corona Extra miles away from ordinary factoid of the game. Rubio Durazo, a little tap to third. Rhodes has this one and a bad throw. There goes Durazo down to second base. Boy, it appeared that Sosa had himself a very easy inning, but that bad throw sends Durazo to second base with 2 gone.
You see Damian saying, pick me up. Of course, Damian's picked up the pitching staff a lot over at third base. Made a lot of fantastic plays. I think that's really the first, you know, real bad throw that we've seen him make.
Only the 2nd error charge to Damian this year. Here's Eric Chavez now. He has a run batted in with a fly ball. Took a rip and fouled that one back for a strike. Over 80 pitches now for Sosa. And if he could get this final out to have in the low 80s pitch count through 5 innings, that would be quite a recovery after making 34 pitches alone in the 1st inning. 1-1. I mean, those wheels were awfully wobbly in the 1st when the A's scored 4 times on 5 hits, and they were hitting the ball very hard.
Well, Mark Mulder's the last guy you want to spot 4 runs.
Line drive into right field, and that ball short hop by Shumpert. He tried to sell it as a catch. Durazo will score, and now it's a 5-1 ball game. Chavez drives in his 2nd run of this contest.
Well, it's instinctive. You always try to do that as an outfielder, is try to sell that as a catch, but it appeared to clearly bounce.
Here's Ramon Hernandez. And the pitch is a strike. Durazo has scored. Chavez driving him home. Ground ball down to third for Rolls. Over to first on the money this time through 5. 5-1 Oakland. Through 5 onto the 6th. 5-1 Oakland. Terry Shumpert leads off for the Rays here against Mark Mulder. Taps this one foul down the third base side for a strike. Mulder had Shumpert way out in front and struck him out in the 3rd inning, and again had Shumpert reaching in the 6th. Mulder has given the Rays just that 1 hit. That was the home run by Baldelli in the 1st. 1-1 the count.
Well, you can just see it from the center field shot. Everything he throws is just going down in this downward plane.
Hopper down the right side, foul. Long after it, Hatteberg there, but Long can't catch up to it as it falls into the bullpen area. The count is 1-2. Mulder won 21 games 2 years ago. He was 21-8 and 19-7 last year. Came up originally in 2000 and was 9-10. Made 27 starts that year with an earned run average of close to 5.5. It was better than 540. There's a check swing and a foul ball back off the catcher Hernandez. And that pitch almost handcuffed Shumpert. A foul ball. This guy, he has great command of a variety of pitches. And strike three call. He got that one in over the edge for a call third strike. So one away in the 6th inning. Carl Crawford up there on the Gatorade League leaderboard when it comes to infield hits. 16 now. Hitting .268 for the year. 1 ball, no strikes.
You know, Mulder, a very good athlete and a scratch golfer as well. 6'6". A lot of things to time. He repeats his delivery very consistently. A lot of times it takes those guys with the long arms and long legs a while to put it together. Randy Johnson, took him a while to really get it figured out in his delivery at 6'10", but Mulder repeats his delivery very well.
Little number down to third. Vance takes care of Crawford. So 2 up, 2 down. The only other base runner the Rays had aside from Baldelli's home run was the walk to Crawford in the 3rd, and he was caught stealing. That's another thing that Mulder does well. He will make it difficult at times to get a good jump. He'll pick you off of first base, and Crawford did not get a good jump in the 3rd when he was caught stealing. Julio Lugo now takes the first pitch, and that's in there for a strike. It's Crawford at 0 for 1 with a caught stealing today after drawing the walk. And he has been tough to catch steal this year. 1-1. Caught for only the 5th time earlier in this game. Two balls and a strike. Mulder out of the Chicago area.
He's going back home for the All-Star game.
And the bunt. Mulder with the pickup and the throw to first. 1, 2, 3 go the Rays. Bottom of the 6th coming. 5-1 Oakland. Rays baseball on Fox Sports Net, brought to you in part by Chevy. The cars you can depend on, the cars that last. We'll be there. The Rays in Oakland. Final game of this series. It's all even at a game apiece. And here in the bottom of the 6th, Billy McMillan leads off. McMillan back from the minor leagues. There's a strike. The A's losing Jermaine Dye. He got a shoulder separation, and he'll be out anywhere from 3 to 6 weeks, they say. Line drive base hit for McMillan. Shumpert up with it out there. Leadoff single. That's 9 hits now given up by Sosa.
You know, it's been kind of an effortless afternoon for Mark Mulder. I don't think he's even broken a sweat. And obviously the Rays can't afford to give up any more runs because he looks like he has his good stuff. And I wonder if he was a bit unnerved the way the Rays put 15 hits up on Barry Zito, and was thinking, it's not going to happen to me.
Well, he's shown the ability to go the distance. More complete games than anybody else in the big leagues as well. Chris Singleton up there, and the first pitch is a strike to him. The Rays have never beaten Mulder, by the way. He's 5-0 against him. and leading 5-1 today. 1-1 the count. Sosa struggled through the first, gave up 4 runs, gave up an unearned run in the 5th. Mullen, the runner, at first base. Two balls and a strike. Fly ball the other way, back into left. Crawford all the way to the track, but has room and holds it in for the out. That's the first out of the inning. The Chevy upcoming game schedule: Rays in Seattle over the weekend. Starting tomorrow night, we'll be with you at 10 o'clock on PAX 66. Friday, Saturday at 10, and Sunday at 4. The All-Star game Tuesday on Fox at 8 o'clock. The Rays back in action after the All-Star break at home against Alex Rodriguez and the Texas Rangers. Now Mark Ellis. The pitch is in there for a strike. It'll be a homecoming of sort. The shot we just had of not only Lou Piniella but John McLaren, Chris Bosio. Spent some very productive years in Seattle.
Lee Elia.
Yep. Hope you had a chance to see part 2 of the Todd Callis interview with Lee Elia on Rays on Deck today. Back into center. Rocco's there to make the grab. Ellis is the second out.
You get a chance to see what a passionate and expressive guy that Lee Elia is.
Yep. He loves this game and loves to talk about hitting the game in general. Matt Sinatra will be going back as well. Lee, Uncle Lee, he loves to develop the relationship with his hitters. Matt Sinatra. We're still trying to figure out a way to get Matt Sinatra ejected from a game this year. Terrence Long takes the pitch high. 1-0.
Frequently he gets nervous during the game and will chew those fingers right down to the nub.
Foul ball. 1 ball and 1 strike. Well, we went through all the ejections of, Piniella's had I think 3 of them this year. Elia, Bosio's been kicked out. McLaren, Foley. So it leaves Billy Hatcher and Matt Sinatra as the only 2 guys who have not been ejected.
I think due to Matt Sinatra's positioning down in the bullpen, he's probably going to have to get ejected on a fair or foul call, because that's as close as he'll get to an umpire being down there in the bully.
Yep. A ball, 2 strikes. Count still 1-2 on Terrence Long.
Wow,
hey,
nice catch.
Yeah, what a grab, huh?
Use the hat trick.
Oh, look at this. Look at this kind-hearted soul right there. The youngster has himself a souvenir. Wave and a miss. Long out on strikes. We're through 6. 5-1 Oakland. Antonio Perez opens the 7th inning for the Rays. Shortens on the bat, and that fastball for Mulder is in there for a strike. Mark Mulder has had things pretty much his way. The Rays have had only 2 base runners. One a home run, the other one a walk. Perez has gone out to center and to right, so he's 0 for 2.
You know, it's a hot day out there, and he hasn't even sweat through his hat. Doesn't even look like he's broken a sweat.
1-1 to count.
Of course, his teammates tease him a lot because it seems like everything comes easy to him. Maybe that's why he has all those complete games.
Boy, when you think of Zito in this rotation and Mulder, two young quality left-handers. A little soft liner to first, caught by Hatteberg. I mean, you know, to develop a pitcher at all is very difficult, and to have two quality left-handers like this is something else. Rocco Baldelli up there. Here's the Pennzoil protection play. A 1-1 pitch he hit out of here in the first inning. That brought to you by Pennzoil. We're driving protection. Rocco's 6th home run of the year. Gave the Rays a 1-run lead, and it turned out to be short-lived. 1-0 the count. The count is 1-1. The Rays missing Tim Hudson, a quality right-hander in this series. 2-1. When you think about those guys with Zito, Mulder, and Hudson,
it's quite a 3-game series.
Yes, it is. And Baldelli tried to check. That takes the count to 2-2. Wave and a miss. Baldelli will be thrown out. Hernandez to Hatteberg. 5th strikeout for Mulder. 2 gone here in the 7th inning. Reminder, the Rays Family Value Pack good after the All-Star break when the Rays take on the Rangers. Use the coupon in the Tampa Tribune for 4 outfield tickets, 2 Rays caps, and a large Papa John's pizzas for just $39. Aubrey Huff now. Aubrey 0 for 2 in this game. And he takes a little breaking ball for strike 1. He was hitless last night. He did reach base on an error, but went 0 for 5. Upstairs, 1 ball, 1 strike. So Aubrey hitting .302 this time in. He pops it up on the left side. Tejada, the shortstop. Now who's going to get it? They lost that one, and that's going to fall in there for a hit. Into second goes Huff. Well, Tejada and Chavez lost it. McMillan was too late on the scene to do anything about it.
The tough high sky is even difficult for the home team. There's a situation there where nobody really wanted it.
So that goes as a double, not the hardest double of the 31 collected by Huff this year, but a double nevertheless.
Boy, he can rack up some doubles, huh?
Here's Toby Hall. Ground ball, shortstop, Tejada. A little more success with that one. Bottom of the 7th coming, 5-1 Oakland. 5-1, bottom of the 7th inning coming. All game at Oakland this afternoon. Jorge Sosa survived the first, and here he is beginning the 7th inning. Scott Hatteberg takes a look at the first pitch, too low, a ball and no strikes. Hatteberg retired his last time up on that fine play by Baldelli back in center field. That leaping catch as he approached the warning track. 1 ball, 1 strike. into center field this time, and Hatterberg is aboard with a leadoff single. He is 3 for 4. He has 3 of the 10 hits surrendered by the Rays right-hander. 5 of those hits came in the first, by the way.
I thought this guy could only hit when there was runners in scoring position.
Things are starting to even out a little bit, apparently.
Wow.
Hatterberg leading off with a single. Here's Miguel Tejada. Too low. 1 ball, no strikes. Tejada singled home a run in the first. Officially 1 for 3. Two and nothing now. Tejada actually has struggled to keep his average over the 200 mark on this homestand. There's Jesus Colomé now working in the bullpen as Chris Bosio makes a trip to the hill. Leadoff single to Hatterberg, and now Sosa, who's over 100 pitches today, behind in the count to Tejada. Bosio checking on him. 103 pitches to be exact. Every Sunday before the green flag drops, NASCAR this morning. The best pre-race tailgate party this side of Talladega. NASCAR this morning. Sunday morning at 10:30 on Fox Sports Net.
Now wagon racing, that would be entertaining.
The Rays continue their trip out west. We'll load the equipment. Chris Westmoreland, aka Westy, will be taking care of that equipment. On to Seattle. Two-0 the count to Tejada. There's a strike. You could see Westy top of that stagecoach, and
yeah, of course.
Now Levine has joined Colomé.
See Westy loading up all of Chris Fernandez's video games.
Which they would be in the strong box. Down to third, diving stop by Rolls, can't find it. Well, that'll go as a base hit, but he took an extra base hit away from Tejada. Diving stop for Damian Rolls down there at third.
That ball was heading for the corner. He may have saved a run, and I mean, you think about how hard this ball was hit, and most third basemen just have a step and a dive. He looked like he had about a crossover step with 3 strides, and all that shows you is how quick his reactions really are.
2 men on with nobody out here in the 7th, and Rubio Durazo is the hitter. One and 0 the count. Here comes Lou Piniella now. He's seen enough as Sosa well over the 100 pitch mark. So Lou Piniella comes out of the dugout here in what is a 5-1 game right now. And Sosa with a couple of men on base and nobody out here in the 7th inning has reached the end of the line. So the Devil Rays make an Aflac pitching change here. Jorge Sosa out of here after 6 innings plus a couple hitters in the 7th. He surrendered base hits here to Hatterberg and Tejada. Jeremy Gonzalez with Sosa after Sosa has been lifted in favor of Al Levine. 1-0 the count to Durazo, the designated hitter. The pitch is down. 2 balls and no strikes. Now Levine there for a stretch when the Rays had no lefties in their bullpen. He served that role. Bobby Sees has been recalled, as you know. Now he's behind Durazo. 3-0.
No, he's looking for that ground ball. Of course, he has been very effective against the lefties. A 2-0 count.
And there's a strike.
Wow.
I mean, that's amazing, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Goes to show you what a sinker can do for you.
He comes back to throw strike 2. 3-2. You know, the other thing I think Levine does a pretty good job of, Joe, is you don't see that pitch right away from him.
Mm-hmm. There's that slider, and anyone with a good sinker knows that he's out there trying to get that ground ball pitch.
This one is down for ball 4. So that's going to load the bases. Nobody out with the bases loaded. Eric Chavez. Chavez will be the hitter. And the pitch is popped up on the left side. Infield pop here as Rolls makes the catch. And that's the first out. One away with the bases still loaded. Don't forget the Best Damn Sports Show period coming up. It'll be tonight at 8 and 10 on Fox Sports Net. Chiefs wide receiver Johnny Martin, Luke Walton, and Dante Jones in as well on Fox Sports Net, the Best Damn Sports Show period. Now Ramon Hernandez, the catcher. He singled home a run in the first inning. A's have him loaded. And the first pitch is a strike. Hatterberg aboard at third. Tejada is the runner at second. Durazo over at first. Tap foul. 2 strikes. Oakland scored 4 times in the first, added an unearned run in the 5th. Bases are loaded in the 7th. Check swing, foul ball back into the screen. Ramon Hernandez will be headed to the All-Star game, named to his first All-Star team. Last Oakland catcher to make it was Terry Steinbach. A ball, 2 strikes.
Of course, Mark Mulder is going.
The Rays facing the All-Star battery here for Oakland. Mulder and Hernandez. Ground ball, shortstop, should be 2. Lugo to second for 1. Perez to first to leave for 2. Through 7, 5-1 Oakland. Not a Brock-umbrella, an umbrella, but not exactly what we're looking for. Travis Lee leads off the 8th and takes the pitch inside. A ball to no strikes.
We're getting reports that that's Mrs. Beasley.
There's a strike. It's 1-1. So the umbrella's out against the California sun. Clear skies in Oakland. 2 balls and a strike. The A's scored 4 times in the first after Rocco Baldelli had belted a homer for the Rays in the first. And to third and through the hole between short and third, out of the reach of Tejada. And Travis Lee with a little base hit to open the 8th.
Of course, a homecoming of sorts for Travis Lee out of San Diego State.
Has a lot of friends here in the Bay Area.
Damien rolls, ground ball shortstop to Hada to Ellis. Over to Hatteberg, 6-4-3 on the double play, and that takes care of the leadoff single. You can join the official seniors fan club of the Devil Rays, the Silver Rays, presented by St. Anthony's Healthcare. And you'll pick up a free t-shirt, tote bag, and free admission to 3 Rays Senior Day games and more. Silver Rays, call 888-FAN-RAYS.
Where's Morgana?
That's her daughter.
And she's very buoyant.
I wonder where she had gone. Well, she made a little appearance out here. Very active.
Yep. You know, she came out and did a cartwheel, and I think wanted a little affection from Mark Mulder.
He did the right thing.
Yep.
He gave her plenty of space.
She seemed to be excitable.
She did, and certainly friendly. Well, here's Terry Shumpert. Well, if that doesn't disrupt Mulder's concentration, I'm not sure that it can be disrupted.
And apparently
the count.
They're taking her to a holding cell, and she's going to be debriefed by Jane Russell.
Chavez to Hatteberg. There it is. Look at that move, huh? It's California. Bottom of the 8th coming, 5-1 Oakland. Rays baseball on Fox Sports Net, brought to you in part by Nissan and your Nissan dealer. Bottom of the 8th coming here. It's a 5-1 ball game. Rocco Baldelli out there in center field. Here's the Nissan moment of the game. It's not what you think. Rocco Baldelli back to the wall to make this catch. Earlier in the afternoon, a fine running grab on the ball hit by Scott Hatteberg in the 5th inning. That's the Nissan moment of the game.
You know, I had heard reports that Morgana had, you know, quit this business or hung up her, well, she's just not doing it anymore.
1 strike the count to Billy McMillan.
That could have been her daughter.
Yeah, we saw the second coming of Morgana. 1 ball, 1 strike. Well, that was pretty surprising, I've got to say.
And with some degree of difficulty with that cartwheel.
Line drive up the right side, skipping back up the right side, out of play, and the count is 1-2. Jesus Colome out there now for the Rays. Al Levine got out of the spot in the 7th. Two balls, 2 strikes. Colome, the losing pitcher in the game last night. 2-5, on for the 33rd time.
And really had drawn the ire of Lou Piniella, not throwing any breaking pitches or continuing to shake them off. When asked about it after the game why, he really didn't have much of an explanation for it.
Well, he's not altogether different than the conversation we had about Sosa earlier. A young pitcher with a very good arm. Foul ball back. But not necessarily the finished product that you're after. You know, the interesting thing about him, when the Rays got him, the reports were that, you know, he had a plus breaking ball slider and a plus changeup as well. And he has walked McMillan to go with that very good arm.
Going the times we see him throw that slider, I mean, it's a good pitch. And you have to do something. I don't care if you throw 100 miles an hour, and he has before. You have to do something to get those hitters off of that one pitch. If they go up there thinking every time they're going to get a fastball, you can't throw it fast enough for them.
Adam Pyatt will take over as a runner for McMillan at first base. Runner on with nobody out. Chris Singleton is the hitter. A wave and a miss. Strike one. Well, I wonder what that tells you, Joe. Here's a young guy who did throw not only very hard with that fastball in the minor leagues, but he threw the slider there well enough to be scouted as having an above average slider and changeup. And you know, you get to the big leagues and sometimes that thinking process changes. A guy thinks, well, I'm in the big leagues now, I've got to throw harder. Well, that's not necessarily true.
No, you just have to be better.
Although if you stop and really think about it, the reason he got to the big leagues is because he could throw hard. And the Rays were looking for people who threw hard. He knew that's why he got to the big leagues. So that might have something to do with it as well. 2 balls and a strike. But throwing hard by itself very seldom will keep you in the big leagues, and so that's where he is in his development right now. Liner into center field. Rocco is there and makes the catch. 1 away here in the 8th. Now Mark Ellis. Ellis is 1 out of 3. He's singled in the 4th. The pitch is a strike. Ellis out of the University of Florida. Matter of fact, he was the shortstop when David Eckstein was the second baseman in Florida. And in the big leagues, they have just flip-flopped, with Eckstein playing shortstop and doing it very well for the Anaheim Angels, and Ellis playing second base and doing that very well here for Oakland. Base hit up the middle. Pyatt stops at second. Mark Ellis has his second hit. Matter of fact, Ellis had that errorless streak snapped. He had 31 consecutive games without an error until he was charged with one Tuesday night.
Well, batting, right fielder, Terrence Long.
2 men on. Here's Terrence Long. Long singled to start the first and scored the first of 4 runs in that inning. Pops it up. These are not routine on a day like today. Infield pop here takes care of that, though, and Lugo does the honors.
Hey, since it's right on the subject, who do you think should start the All-Star game? Loaiza? We just saw Loaiza.
And he, by the way, failed to get his 12th win today. He was beaten by Detroit 1-0.
The way Mark Mulder is pitching, it looks like he's going to get number 12. Just 3 outs left to get. I would have to say that would be my All-Star.
Mulder.
Yeah. Starter.
Scott Hatteberg. The pitch is down. A ball and no strikes.
I also think you know, it's just been a magical year for Loaiza, but Mulder and the numbers that he's put up the last 2 years, and of course this year, you got to give him the ball.
Tap foul by Hatteberg. 2 men on, 2 men out. A ball and a strike to count. Hard to imagine that he could be much better than he's been today. Allowing just 3 hits.
21-8 in 01, 19-7 last year.
looking to be 12-6 at the break. It's easy to see why he's not even sweating, perspiring, whatever you want to call it.
Listening in some cases.
Yeah. He only has 87 pitches and he's getting ready to finish it out.
2-1 the count. Column A to Hannibal. Blocked by Toby Hall. 3 balls and a strike. McMillan walked. Pyatt running for him. With 1 out, Ellis single to center. Long is popped out. Ground ball back of first. Travis Lee will make the play unassisted. We're through 8 with the score 5-1 Oakland. Carl Crawford opens the 9th inning for the Rays. Mark Mulder throws him a strike. Mulder under 90 pitches here as he opens the 9th inning. Giving up a run on 3 hits and a walk. 1 ball, 1 strike. He walked Crawford in the 3rd. Carl was caught stealing. Baldelli homered in the 1st. Huff had what turned out to be a pop double in the 7th. Lost in the sky. Lee singled but was doubled up in the 8th. 2-1 the count now against Crawford. Up the left side, that's going to be in there. Back into the corner. Carl's on his way to second with a stand-up double. Carl Crawford's 11th double of the year.
Well, you just love to see him having good at-bats against quality left-handers. Had some great at-bats against Zito.
No betting.
There's a beauty there.
Shortstop, Julio.
You know, he's hitting around 290 against left-handed pitching. And hanging in there quite well. Here's Lugo. He's had a tough time with Mulder. 0 for 3, a couple strikeouts. Inside, a ball, no strikes. Lugo with a little one-hopper out to second base. Crawford will go to third after some hesitation. He wasn't sure, I think, if the ball was going to be caught in the air or not. Turned out to be a one-hopper. 1 gone. Rays Super 6-pack this year. Pick a Rays Yankees game and a Rays Red Sox game and any 4 other games for as low as $39. The first 1,000 orders receive a Pepsi 6-pack and cooler. Call 888-FAN-RAYS or visit the Tropicana Field box office or the Rays dugout store at West Shore Plaza. Antonio Perez with a man at third and 1 out in the 9th. Up and in. Perez 0 for 3 in this game. Two and 0. So 4 hits for the Rays. They've been out hit 12-4. Two balls and a strike.
And I don't think they've ever had the feeling that they were in this, other than Rocco's home run in the 1st.
Takes the count to 2-2.
This has just been a surgical dissection.
Ground ball. That's going to be deep in the hole. Tejada's thrown to first. Not in time. The run scores as Perez has himself an RBI and an infield hit to make it 5-2. Perez with very good speed can get out of that batter's box. There's a base hit.
Well, you're thinking just about everyone else is out except for Antonio Perez.
So it's now 5-2, and here's Rocco Baldelli. Ken Mock is headed to the mound. He has the bullpen busy. One out here in the ninth.
This can't be more than maybe trying to get folks some work, because he's under 100 pitches.
Leads the majors with 6 complete games, and Mock is going to stay there. Stay with him. 98 pitches to this point.
Maybe Kenny was just trying to get a little love from the Oakland fans.
Well, he got a little input as to what they wanted him to do anyway.
Yep.
First pitch is a strike. Rocco is homered, flied to center, and struck out. Sends this one into center field. Singleton backing up is there, and he makes the catch. 2 outs, and Aubrey Huff will be the hitter. Aubrey had a double in the 7th inning. His 31st of the year. He leads the American League in 2 base hits. Wave and a miss. Perez, not being held at first, moves up to second. No play on that one. Mark Mulder with 2 outs in the 9th. A man at second. A run home for the Rays. And a tap foul by Huff. 2 strikes. Five-year-old lefty Mark Mulder. No umbrella needed with that hat. Fastball too high. 1 ball, 2 strikes.
Pom-poms and a cowboy hat, and you've got yourself a party.
And a foul ball. Just a little piece of that one. So Huff's still alive. I'm not sure that he worked on the same ranch that Durazo worked on when he was growing up in Mexico.
Probably had more fun, though.
A ball, 2 strikes the count. And a fly ball into right. Long is there, and this one is over. Oakland wins it. It's a 5-2 final. The Rays pick up a run on a couple of hits in the 9th inning, leaving a man all over here. The Oakland A's have taken this one 5-2, and they win 2 of 3 in this series. We'll be back with the totals in a moment. Rays baseball on Fox Sports Net has been brought to you in part today by Pennzoil. We're driving protection. 5-2 the final. Oakland defeating the Rays today. For Oakland, 5-12-0 with 9 men left. For the Rays, 2-5-2 with 2 men left on base. Mark Mulder becomes the 12-game winner, now 12-6. Jorge Sosa, the losing pitcher, he is 2-7. 2 hours and 16 minutes the time of this game before 14,299. We'll be with you on the over-the-air Rays television network tomorrow from Seattle. Jeremy Gonzalez will go to the hill for the Rays against Jamie Moyer. We'll be with you at 10 o'clock. Same thing on Saturday and Sunday afternoon at 4 o'clock from Seattle as that series leads up to the All-Star break. The All-Star game coming your way on Fox on Tuesday. Rays home right after the All-Star break against Texas and Anaheim. Now for Joe Magrane and the rest of our crew, this is Dewayne Staats. Great to have you with us. Hope you've enjoyed the telecast, if not the outcome. Again, the final score. The Oakland Athletics 5, the Devil Rays 2 from Oakland, California. So long, everybody.